I'd like to turn my attention to domestic politics. So, yesterday, as I mentioned in the monologue, Bernie Sanders was just removed from the ballot in New York. The entire election was shut down. This was met with scorn and rage for Sanders supporters who already suffered the perpetual indignity of backing a fighter that didn't know the slightest bit of karate or even had the willingness to learn, even with the world as the prize fund at stake. This was made worse with constant attacks by the media and the Democratic Party on Bernie Sanders supporters as racist, sexist, bros, hostile, uniquely aggressive and abusive. And let us not forget Elizabeth Warren's dig that we are the foundation of hate itself. As Sanders was undermined in New York and later in Ohio, AOC, Sanders surrogate, was live streaming an interview with one Elizabeth Warren. How random, how random. Why is AOC interviewing anyone, let alone Elizabeth Warren? Now, right now, there is a deep state going on behind the scenes. Warren, Harris, Abrams have all put their names in the hat. They've all made their pitches with Joe Biden trying to determine whether he has the black vote shored up, in which case he can choose a lefty, or whether he needs to shore up the black vote, in which case he will choose a black woman. Yes, it's entirely an issue of identity and who he can con or who they believe they need to con the most. My hypothesis is that this is not random at all. AOC, and this is just speculation on my part, but I don't think it's a leap of logic to believe that AOC considers Warren more progressive than the other VP shortlist choices. As such, Warren's argument of the case is that basically, for Biden to choose her, is that she can bring lefties with her. Choose me, I can bring lefties. That's your weak spot. These are the people who, for the most part, were backing Sanders to the hilt. I can get those people. Choose me. I can bring them along with me. Now, the catch here, though, is that multiple articles were released saying that this might not be true. That lefties had a certain amount of consternation with Warren based on her behavior in the Democratic primary. That said, what about AOC? What does it look like when AOC, the person who's considered to be the future of the left in the Democratic Party, is sitting and having a conversation with one Elizabeth Warren? It makes it look like her bona fides are that much higher just by association. Think of what Bernie Sanders was doing for Tom Perez in the Democratic Party running around the country. They were rubbing themselves in Sanders for the exact same reason. My point is, if Warren is trying to get the beefsteaks, and if AOC believes Warren is the best choice of a list of bad choices, then she may actually back Warren for that spot. And this interview and everything else may be here entirely for the purpose of optics to undermine the stories that came out with the left having consternation. Bob, am I jumping the shark on this? Or is there, or do political actors act politically in the way they behave and go about their affairs?
I think the other layer to this story is Elizabeth Warren coming out a few days ago and naming 20 women down ballot that she was going to endorse. And this was one of the things that allowed Elizabeth Warren to even rise to the level she did, was through the Progressive Change Campaign Coalition. They were doing a lot of down ballot touches throughout the campaign. And I think a lot of people really appreciated Elizabeth Warren reaching out to those folks. She went on to endorse Sharice Davids, Lauren Underwood, Abby Finauker, and Katie Porter, some big names in the progressive women's world of Congress. All of those women are currently in office. And Elizabeth Warren also endorsed Christy Smith as well as Gina Ortiz-Jones, who's running against, if people remember, Will Hurd. Will Hurd is who Beto O'Rourke, as you all once loved, had endorsed the Republican there over the women that were Democrats that were running against him. So I think Elizabeth Warren, I think this was a strategic play that she might have just outpoliticked the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. As much as the left loves AOC and she's a Twitter firebrand, when you all of a sudden have 20 other women accept and embrace the endorsement from Elizabeth Warren, that kind of boxes out AOC at some point. I mean, she's famous on Twitter, but she's not necessarily a political actor and shaker yet, just getting there. And she'll need other women to be aligned within men and non-gender binary people as well that all share the value system that she has. But it seems like Elizabeth Warren made a power play here by making sure she was doing those down ballot touches and is trying to cash those in right now.
That might be true. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily put it past her. I mean, I remember when Sanders, was making his endorsements, Warren were also basically just taking the same endorsements. So I wouldn't necessarily be shocked by that if her thought is, look, I need to have some level of clout and leverage in the party and take actions for it. I don't know if AOC has been outgamed by this. I'm not sure one way or the other, right? It's all speculation. I guess my thought is, would AOC look at Warren? Well, because at one point, we weren't even sure who AOC was going to endorse. Like, we thought AOC might even end up endorsing Elizabeth Warren herself. So if that's true, and if AOC still considers Warren a lefty, would she try to help Warren take the VP spot, believing that the left is better off with Warren as opposed to somebody else? I don't necessarily think that's a little bit logic, even though I think it's speculative. I just think the interview is so random that my thought is, why are you having this interview? And who, do you have interviews typically? And why are you interviewing Warren? This just seems so random.
Yeah, I mean, I think AOC also needs to kind of bolster her power. I mean, I don't know what political power she has. I mean, obviously she's famous in the celebrity world, but is she turning out voters at a national level? I mean, she's one congressional member in all of the United States, and there's plenty of people that don't know AOC. Elizabeth Warren has a national profile. People know who Elizabeth Warren is. So as much as AOC is a firebrand, I think she does gain from being visible with Elizabeth Warren, and might as well position herself as the bridge builder between those of the Sanders world that are upset at Warren, and build that bridge, and then you curry favor with Warren at the same time. So it seems like it kind of benefited both AOC and Warren in slightly different ways, but obviously frustrating to say the least.
It's funny. I've heard people say, yeah, I'd vote for Biden, but I wouldn't vote for Biden if he chooses Warren. I mean, like...
But what sense does that make? For why? Why would they say that?
Because from their standpoint, Warren burned a lot of bridges. I mean, keep in mind, Warren ran the entire primary, grifting votes from the left, and support from the left, and then to turn around and not back the guy that the left chooses. In fact, not just not back him, attack the guy. So you have a lot of people who were Sanders supporters who who take great offense to it, considering Warren was running the race as if she was something that she wasn't. So I wouldn't vote for Joe Biden either way. But I understand where they're coming from with that. I mean, she ran a duplicitous campaign. And she attacked our guy when our guy would never attack her. And to be fair, you can say, well, that's the thing of Sanders. That's because Sanders allowed it. Fair enough. But by the same token, he would never attack her. And at the end of the process, regardless of what Warren would have did to Sanders, he would have dropped out the race and backed her in a heartbeat. Wouldn't have even thought twice about it.
I mean, with the remaining heartbeats he has, I don't know. I thought too soon to make a joke there, but felt a little too soon. But no, I completely hear you. And where does the left go? I said this from the beginning. Anybody that was out supporting Elizabeth Warren and not Bernie Sanders, I think they would hold their nose and vote for Joe Biden. So if you're trying to get those to the left via Warren, I don't think that's necessarily the person to pick. And I guess I just don't think the Democrats have it in them to pick somebody that would actually speak to the Sanders movement of people that feel so oppressed by the federal government and they want something new, no matter who is on the ticket with Joe Biden. I just don't think those people are coming back. But lucky for you, Democrats, you have millions of Democrats out there that just don't turn out and vote for you because you don't mobilize them. Stop worried about third-party voters in the far left. That's right. Even AOC, in many ways, isn't going to reach the far left. People that are anti-imperialist haven't seen eye to eye with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as much as, say, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. So for me, Jamarl, I don't think the Democrats have an interest in reaching too far to the left, because anywhere to the left, then you get into democratic socialism and having to not maybe just rely only on capitalistic values. All of a sudden it breaks, and I just don't think there's anywhere for them to go to the left.
Yeah, I don't think they will. I mean, until the left breaks this model of you have nowhere else to go, they don't go anywhere. I mean, that's kind of the issue, right? For as long as the left stays cowed and terrified that, oh my God, the Republicans are going to get in office. Well, the Republican is already in office. And, I hate to tell you this, but over the course of time, where you've narrowed the focus of these races down to individual races as opposed to something that's taken place over the context of time, your elections have moved forward farther and farther to the right because of such. You don't have any standards. And because you don't have standards, the Democratic Party is allowed to go lower and lower and lower. So each year you're voting for somebody that just so happens to be worse than the last. So now you have a man who has literal cognitive issues, where he didn't even know where he was at one point. And this is the guy who they're saying is going to beat Trump like a drum. Bob, this is, I don't think they have any interest in reaching out to the left as long as they believe they can scare the left into voting for him.
Yeah, and that's why you're in this weird, bizarro world of identity politics within the Democratic Party to try to reach out to the left, and it's breaking the political system. Jamal.